Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear friends. Allah bless you all. Okay, Alhamdulillah. Let's continue with our look at Surah Al-Ra'd, Al-Fatiha. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, ihdinas siratal mustaqim. An'amta alayhim ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد صلاة تفرحه وتسعده وترضيه واجزه بها عنا ما هو أهله يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم زدنا ولا تنقصنا وأكرمنا ولا تهنا وأعطنا ولا تحرمنا وآثرنا ولا تؤثر علينا وأرضنا وارض عنا يا كريم. So, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. We looked at Surah Al-Ra'd, we looked at the many proofs for why Allah Azza wa Jal is the true God and the true Creator and the only one who deserves worship. And now we see that the surah is going to move on to dismantling the ideas that the idolaters had. After telling us everything worships Allah. Everything is in submission to Allah. Even the thunder and the lightning and everything. We now see that the idols that these people were believing in, they don't have a reality. Like they don't have divinity. Like what the point that's being mentioned and discussed here is these people are worshipping things that don't really exist. Like they have an idol, and whether they say this idol itself will grant me what I ask it, so I worship it, or this idol will intercede before God, or the idol represents something else, and like an avatar kind of thing, and that being will do this. That being is being worshipped. So Allah Subhanahu wa Taala dismantles this argument, and we'll see now how it happens. So the first verse we look at, yeah. So yeah, also from Imam Bukhari, I believe. Allah has shown many signs of His power and the truth of this message, but they continue to reject. So the coming verse would highlight their rebellion and rejection, and like their beliefs are wrong. This is from Imam Al-Razi. Their beliefs are wrong and just completely unfounded. So he says, له دعوة الحق والذين يدعون من دونه لا يستجيبون لهم بشيء إلا كباسط كفيه إلى الماء ليبلغ فاه وما هو ببالغه. Calling upon Him alone is the truth, but those idols the pagans invoked besides Him can never respond to them in any way. It is just like someone who stretches out their hands to water, asking it to reach their mouths, but it can never do so. And so da'watul haqq. So there are two positions on this. One is here, and I'll mention the other one, that his call is absolutely true and there's no falsehood attached to it. This refers to the kalimatul tawheed, which was a call for the Arabs to leave idolatry and worship alone. So this is one position, that when Allah calls to something, He, as Imam al-Biqai says, He clarifies, He shows that this is true, right, fitting, and it should be accepted. He gives all of the proofs, and like He's shown that He is the one who deserves all worship, no one else. He knows everything. He can do anything. So He's shown that. So that's one position, and it's true. It's true that when you hear the Quran, when you hear the message of God, when you hear it come from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you feel it resonate with you. And there's I saw this video of this young girl in some mall in New York, I believe, and she heard the adhan, and she was like 2 or 3 years old, and her heart was resonating, right, with the call. She didn't understand the words, but there's something deep within the human soul that knows the truth of it, that God is one and He deserves to be worshipped. Allah is the creator. And so that's one position. The other position is da'watul haqq, refers to calling on Him is is the only true call. Like when you call on Allah, He hears. When you call on Allah, uh, He responds. And the haqq also with its meaning of not only truth, but something that's wise, that's fitting, perfect for this situation. It's right. That those meanings are there as well, and they inspire, as Abu Saud says, they inspire a person, with confidence that when you call on Allah, you will get a response. And I've seen this myself in my life, and many people have seen it. Even non-Muslims see it. Sometimes I was speaking to a manager once at this job that I had, and he was a non-Muslim, and I said, "Do you believe in God?" He said, "No." Then he said, but then again, he was driving home from the hospital. I think his maternal grandmother was ill. And he said to me that he remembered saying, "Please let her be okay. Please let her be all right." I said, "You were calling to God there." Right? Many people just haven't thought about it. Especially in our times, it's easy for a person to just grow up. Childhood is about playing, and teen years is about, establishing your identity, whatever. And people go through life distracted, like there's constantly something to read or someone to interact with, or some content to consume, or something to listen to. So people can go through life for years not actually thinking, or not allowing themselves to think. Or if the idea comes, like I did know someone like this at university, the idea of God comes into their minds, because it's such a scary concept to them, because it means that their worldview isn't correct, that they'll run away from it, right? So, but no, but this is true, and calling on Allah is right. Your soul resonates with it. Lahu da'watul haqq. And then he says, وَالَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِهِ لَا يَسْتَجِيبُونَ لَهُمْ. And those, so وَالَّذِينَ also has its own beauty here. That these things, that those who they يدعون, they keep calling on besides Him, besides Allah, لا يستجيبون لهم. So the verse highlights that they have left the worship of the true God and worshipped other things that are lifeless and inanimate. They cannot hear them and they cannot respond. This is clarified through the coming simile, which I will explain. So he says, وَالَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِهِ, those who they keep on calling besides Allah. They keep on, this slaughter something for their idol, and they'll call on it, or they'll worship this idol and they'll say, "Give me this, or take care of this, or remove this harm, or bring me this benefit." Yad'una, again and again and again. Min dunihi, you translate it as besides Him, but the literal meaning, which is also implied, is that they're beneath Him. Allah is the true being who deserves to be worshipped, and these things are not even existent. They're far below Him. Min dunihi, they're below Him, and they don't deserve to be placed on the same level as Him, i.e., of worship. La yastajibuna lahum. So istif'al, we've looked at many times. It means the verb on its own means to do something as much as you can, even seeking an increase. Right? So here, to respond. So, and then this is negated, so they don't respond to them at all in any way, not in the slightest. So these idols that they have, do not respond to them. لا يستجيبون لهم بشيء, with anything, illa, except. So then it doesn't come, it wasn't there in the translation, but how this works in Arabic, it's in English, it's like saying, Zaid has never done anything for me except for the time he was supposed to do that job for me, and he stayed at home and didn't even do it. So, so it's like, so how it works is that you mention a scenario and then you mention an exception to it, but then the exception only emphasizes the scenario. So, like one of the Arabs said, وَلَا عَيْبَ فِيهِمْ غَيْرَ أَنَّ سُيُوفَهُمْ بِهِنَّ فُلُولٌ مِنْ قِرَاءِ الْكَتَائِبِ من قراء الكتائب. So he said that he's praising a tribe. He said they have no flaws, they have no faults, except for their swords have chinks, bits missing, because of how hard they beat they attack the opposing armies. Right, which is a virtue, strength and valor and courage and skill in fighting. So he's saying they have no flaws, And the thing you class as a flaw is actually a positive trait. Right? So he's saying they don't respond to them except in one scenario, which is it إلا كباسط كفيه إلى الماء ليبلغ فاه وما هو ببالغه. And the way this is expressed in Arabic is really eloquent. إلا كباسط كفيه. Like, so the only time they can respond is like someone, a person, like the scenario of a person stretching his hands out لباسط كفيه إلى الماء. Someone stretching his hands out towards water, right? Imagine someone stood, over a bridge, on a bridge overlooking a lake, or someone stood at the top of a well. Basit, the ism fa'il here, like he stretched them out and he's keeping them there, calling the water, come to me, oh water, come to me, sweet H2O, come, come to my mouth, right? So he stretched his hands out, al ma'i, why? So that the liyablugha fahu, so that water can reach his mouth. So he stretched his hands out and he's calling the water, come, 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 come. وَمَا هُوَ بِبَالِغِهِ. And the ism fa'il bin baligh and the ma negating it. Very eloquent, strong structure in Arabic. So he says, and the water is not going to reach him. And this is common sense. You go stand over, a lake, go to the seaside and, stand at the water and stick your arms out and say to the water, come to me, come into my mouth. Is it going to enter your mouth? Not unless someone takes some water and puts it into your mouth or throws it on your face or something. If you leave the water as it is, and if you stand there with your arms stretched out, calling to it, as you are, is anything going to happen? No. And this is common sense. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this very beautiful, simile, the imagery is really eloquent, and accurate. He's saying your call, your dua, and though dua in the Arabic, some people just take it literally that it's just calling, like, oh Allah, give me this, oh God, give me this. But dua, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, as we shall see in the hadith, he said, "Ad-dua mukhul ibadah." Dua is the essence of worship. Meaning, dua, when you call on someone, I have this problem, please take care of it, or I need this thing, please give me it. You only you only call someone when you're desperate. You only call your last resort. And for the believer, that's Allah. Like you can ask a friend for help, but when your friends can't help and no one can help, it's, oh Allah, oh Allah, you're the supreme being, you're in control, you can do anything. Oh Allah, take care of this problem for me, get rid of this problem for me. This is the essence of worship. And so it's not just that you've called someone, come here or help me out or pray for me or do this for me. That's not what's intended. So it's not just about the calling, but there's other things entailed with it, worship in general. But this is the most this is the, you could say, the highest aspect of worship, where you show your need, your desperation, who you think can help you, who you think has the ability to change things. That's the one you turn to. So he's saying this person's just stood there calling the water and the water's not going to reach his mouth. Just like that, these idolaters are stood there, speaking to their idol, whether they think this idol itself or a being that is represented by this idol. They're asking them for things, but nothing's coming because they do not exist. They don't exist. And then, like, with the Greeks, they had Zeus and, the other, deities they had, but they don't exist. Like, where are they? Right? They said that they live on Mount Olympus. They don't exist. So this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing these people, you're not using your minds. God's given you brains. Use them. Reflect on this. That these things can't, do anything for you. Allah is the one. And the proof is, Allah has sent down a book that's miraculous. You can learn Arabic and you can see today what a miracle is, like someone who knows it, right? Otherwise, after a bit of time of learning, you can see, look, this is something beyond human, capabilities. And there are other miracles, historically documented miracles. If you want to see one right now, here's the Quran. But there's many, many others. And so there's one Lord who revealed a book saying He's the Lord and He's the Creator and He's the one that deserves worship. Nothing else deserves worship. And He sends a messenger with miracles and proofs. And the revelation itself is a miracle and a proof. So if this wasn't the case and there was an actual another Lord, where's His refutation? There isn't one. There isn't one. And you can actually see that God revealed the scriptures to the prophets, and then the Torah came to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, and then the Injil came to Jesus, although they didn't actually document that. They just have the Gospels, which are accounts written, 50 years after Jesus, by the admission of the Christians themselves. And so, and then the Quran came, right, in the succession of the revelation to these prophets, although there was the Psalms of Dawood. And, the Quran is the final revelation. And no one has been able to A, refute it, or B, produce a sound argument for saying that this is not correct. There's actually another God who's the real God. No. And this is why we still have people. Do you see the Quran and it moves them, it stirs them, and they know this is from the Creator. So then, so the water doesn't reach their mouths. So he says, وَمَا دُعَاءُ الْكَافِرِينَ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ. And the call of the disbelievers, or their calls, when they call out to the idols, it's in nothing but dalal is when something's lost. So if imagine being lost is a container, and their calls are in nothing but that container which is being lost. Meaning they're calling out, and then it's indefinite illa fi, so it's in that container, and dalalin, indefinite. So the kafir who hides the truth, he knows the truth but he hides it, and then he carries on with other fake practices. His calls, his supplications are, there's no answer to them, right? It's like they're just echoing in the ether, and no one hears them, so they don't get a response because they're directed at beings that don't actually exist. And so the next verse is a verse of prostration. So there's a difference amongst the fuqaha. In the Hanafi school, there are 14 of these verses. And so if you hear, so like I said in the slide, if you recite the verse yourself, or if you hear the verse live, it's necessary to do a prostration. So you need to have wudu, you face the qibla, and you do a prostration. Obviously, this is a recording, so it's not alive. So I will, when I say the verse, I will have to do a prostration. But if you hear the verse live, with the exception of a lady who's not praying, it's not obligatory on her. But someone not in that situation, hearing it live or reciting it entails a recitation, a prostration of recitation. So he says, وَلِلَّهِ يَسْجُدُ. Oof. Oof. That is powerful. After coming from that, we're saying these people, their call, their supplications, their worship is all going to waste. These people who have free choice and they're choosing to worship, these inanimate things. And he's saying, and the reality is, whilst that's happening, lillahi yasjudu, to Allah is everything prostrating. Although we'll see that the meaning actually means pure submission. But here they are with the aspect of their lives that they have free choice in, wasting it and directing it at something that doesn't deserve worship, right? And here's the reality in the background. It's just really eloquent. وَلِلَّهِ يَسْجُدُ, present tense again and again and again. مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. All those, and man entails the focus on those of intellect, otherwise everything. But here, because he's going to talk about willingly and unwillingly. وَلِلَّهِ يَسْجُدُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ طَوْعًا وَكَرْهًا وَظِلَالُهُمْ بِالْغُدُوِّ وَالْآصَالِ. And that little prayer mark kind of image signifies the sajda. To Allah alone bow down in submission. all those in the heavens and the earth willingly or unwillingly, as do their shadows morning and evening. So let's look at a couple of things here. Firstly, what does sujood mean? Yes, judo. Um, for the human, so a sujood, its essence is submission and lowering yourself, being in accordance with someone else's will and decree. That's what sujood is. So it's manifested in the highest way in human beings by placing your forehead on the ground. But the meaning here that all the scholars of Tafsir are talking about is complete subservience and submission to God. And to Allah alone, the Lillah, it could have been yasjudu lillahi man fis sama, but because he says walillahi, it's like saying you I worship or you we worship, like we saw in the Fatiha. Same thing. So it's restricting the meaning to Allah. So to Allah, everything or everyone in the heavens and the earth is in complete submission. So who's everyone in the heavens? So all of the angels and all of the beings, the that Allah has created, everything. So here, like I said, the focus is on the rational thinking beings. They're all in submission to God. And he says, in the heavens, all the skies, and on the earth, taw'an wa karhan, willingly and unwillingly, willingly by choice or even without a choice. So what does this mean? So someone who believes in God and worships Him and thanks Him and prays and prostrates and does everything like this, they are in pure submission to God. Angels, they receive their instructions, they carry them out, they are in pure submission to God. These are the cases of willingly. And then unwillingly, everyone, even the staunchest disbeliever, there are things in his life that go in accordance with the will of Allah. Right? For example, he has to eat. Allah has willed it that we need food and drink to sustain ourselves. So when he's hungry, he has to go and eat. When he becomes ill, if God decides to test someone with an illness, his body's ill. He can't just say, well, no, you know what, I don't fancy being ill today. I don't want to have this illness, and presto, it's gone. No, when Allah wills, this happens. And when Allah chooses for them to die, that's when they die. So everyone is in a state of submission. There's this sphere where He's given people full choice. Choose your fate. Choose your belief, either belief in God and the truth or any of the false ideologies and ideas out there. Choose that, but then there are consequences, and you're choosing the consequences with the choice. So everything, he said, وَظِلَالُهُمْ, and even their shadows. And how is a shadow? So Allah has created shadows. The light isn't that. Yeah, okay. But there are the shadows that is appearing on my torso, right? The shadows of my hands. Allah has created the shadows. They do and they move. They move just as the body, that the shadows of does. When the light source moves, the shadows move. When the light source is higher or lower and further, the length of the shadows increases and decreases. It works just as Allah has wanted. The whole system Allah has created is obeyed. So you can't say, well, you know what, I'm not going to let my shadow do this or do that. I'm going to move, but my shadow is going to stay still. No. So the point here is everything, and you might think, well, this is how the world is anyway. So no, but the point is Allah has created things in this way. Everything is in submission to Him. And like, if you imagine all of existence as this river, huge river, lots of water flowing down, and then there's a disbeliever who doesn't like, he doesn't like the fact that he has to pray or he has to worship God, and so he's like this ant trying to climb up, going against the flow of the entire river. And like, okay, you might be able to survive on a rock for a little bit, but eventually you have to realize that everything is flowing against me. So even though, like, the disbelievers may outnumber the believers, but in reality it's not just human being. There's the jinn, there's the angels, and it's everything is in submission to God. The stars, والنجم والشجر يسجدان, and the plants that grow from the ground, and the trees are in a state of submission. They do what they're meant to do. They give the fruits when they're meant to give the fruits. So it doesn't necessarily mean putting your forehead on the ground, because they don't have foreheads. But this everything is in a state of pure submission to God. Bilghuduwi, in the morning and in the evening, and you see the shadows longer in the morning and in the evening, and then towards midday when the sun's close to being directly above, it's a shorter shadow. And this is all pure submission. And like you said before, وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ. Every single thing is declaring Allah's perfection and freedom from flaws. So then he highlights their mistaken ideology, their incorrect beliefs, and they know it. قل من رب السماوات والأرض قل الله قل أفاتخذتم من دونه أولياء لا يملكون لأنفسهم نفعا ولا ضرا. Ask them, O Prophet, who is the Lord of the heavens and the earth? Say, Allah. Ask them, why then have you taken besides him lords who cannot even benefit or protect themselves? This is excellent. So firstly, قُلْ مَنْ رَبُّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. So the Messenger of Allah was told, ask these pagan Arabs, who is the loving Lord, who is the Lord, the Master, the Creator of the heavens and the earth, the skies and the earth. And then the answer that they would give, and the answer that they did give, was Allah. This is something they recognize, that the Creator is Allah. But then they decided to worship all these idols for whatever reason. They thought that this worship would benefit them, or the idols would intercede for them before Allah, or their forefathers did it, so they thought it's a good idea. So after the question, he says, Qulillah, say Allah. He is the Lord of the heavens and the earth. So he is this Lord, and they're admitting it. So what's happening is that the contradiction in their belief and the lack of thought and the lack of logic in their approach is being made evident. So he's showing them, you're saying Allah is the creator of everything, yet you're worshipping other things that you can't hear, you can't see, they don't know that they exist, let alone be able to be aware of your problems and have the means to fix them. Can you not see the contradiction in this? So then he says, أَفَاتَّخَذْتُمْ مِنْ دُونِهِ أَوْلِيَاءَ. So this is a rhetorical question, and what it does is, it's meant to criticize their illogical actions, and this is followed by other rhetorical questions that are equally obvious in their answer, in order to show how wrong these people are. And we'll look at those now. So he says, so this is, as Abu Sa'ud puts it, is in Inkarul Wukur. Allah, is it? No, Inkarul Waqi'. Like, it's criticizing, like it's saying to someone, like, did you hit your father? Like, let's say someone has done this horrible action. Did you hit your father? Like, he's done it. But the point isn't to ask the information. The point is to criticize the person for the act. Right? So, أَفَاتَّخَذْتُم مِّن دُونِهِ أَوْلِيَاءَ. Is that the case? Have you taken, from, those below him, besides him, awliya, allies, patrons, protectors? لَا يَمْلِكُونَ لِأَنفُسِهِمْ نَفْعًا وَلَا ضَرًّا. These beings who cannot benefit themselves, no harm, or no repel any harm. So the word la yamlikun is from milk. ownership, and the Quran frequently refers to control as ownership. So I own this pen, I have control over it. I can write with it, I can leave it, I can gift it. So they don't even have that control. They don't own, they don't have the capacity to benefit themselves or to repel anyone's harm. So what are they going to do? So Abu Saud puts it that uh, you know, after knowing that Allah is their Lord, you've gone and taken other allies that are incapable, right? Whereas the reality of the matter is, you should have been worshipping Allah all along, and you've gone and done this. Like, is this logical? Is this of sound reasoning? Clearly not. So, say Tantawi mentioned that actually, let's look at the verse. The next verse, this is what he's saying. قل next part of the verse. قل هل يستوي الأعمى والبصير أم هل تستوي أو one قراءة أم هل يستوي الظلمات والنور أم جعلوا لله شركاء خلقوا كخلقه فتشابه الخلق عليهم. Look at this, honestly. Say, can the blind and the sighted be equal? Or can the darkness and night be equal? Or have they associated with Allah partners who supposedly produce a creation like His, leaving them confused between the two creations? Look at this. So let's break this down. Say, O Messenger, هل يستوي الأعمى والبصير? Say, O Messenger, are they equal? Is the blind and the sighted one equal? So you can understand this in two ways. The blind, these people with their incorrect beliefs based on just hearsay and what they learned from their ancestors without a shred of evidence, and it's clear that it's patently false. That person being blind and the person who sees Allah is the one true creator. There has to be a creator. He's one. He has knowledge, will, power. He created all of this. He sent this revelation down. He sent a messenger with the true guidance. Is that being the same as someone who just doesn't know the truth and he's ignoring it and just worshipping what his ancestors worshipped? So he compares them to darkness, to the blind and the seeing. All you can say is the incapable, deity who can't do anything for himself is like the blind, and the one who's capable of everything this person is not capable of, because he has that quality like sight here. Are they the same? And it's such a clear rhetorical question that no one can say yes, not even the person with the lowest intellect. Like if they're seriously trying to answer the question, not even children, they'll say no, the darkness is not like the light, and the blind are not like those who see. And the same thing, another way is put, هل تستوي الظلمات والنور? Are the many darknesses, because there's many forms of turning away from God, and the one light, are they the same? Absolutely not. So what's your excuse? And the same thing, you can say the darknesses are their false beliefs, and the light is the truth. Or you can say it's about the idols and the true God. Oh, so what's the excuse? So he says, asks another rhetorical question. أم جعلوا لله شركاء خلقوا كخلقه فتشابه الخلق عليهم? Or is it the case that they appointed, partners for God, saying, "Oh, this thing is also a God, so we'll say this is a deity along with God, and this is also a God. So with Allah, there's this thing that's a God, and there's this thing that's a God. They've appointed it, and those beings. Is it the case that those beings that they appointed as God have created? They've created things, and their creation, like what they've created, and Allah's creation was so similar that these people became confused, and they thought, well, you know what? He's created the heavens and the earth, and they've created things, and they're so similar, they must also be gods. Has any of these things created anything? No. No. Right? Here we are. So, as I said before, if there was any shred of truth to what they said, Where's their God's refutation? Where's the counter miracles? Where's the counter revelation that would, outshine the Quran? There isn't any. I mean, we have Christians today. One of my teachers, Dr. Mansoor Abu Zina, an expert in Tafsir in Jordan, and he said he knows Christians. He lives in an area where there are a lot of Arab Christians. He said he knows Christians that recite the Quran daily. Let that sink in. Christians, where the Quran criticizes their beliefs and says that, they're disbelievers and they're not going to paradise, they recite it daily because of its unmatched, unparalleled rhetorical beauty, which is also the miracle of the Quran that shows it's true. Let that sink in. And so then, let me just explain all that. And there's many ways of looking at, what the truth is and the light is, right? And so there's a clear fallacy in their approach, right? Clearly, they're just wrong. So he says, قل الله خالق كل شيء وهو الواحد القهار. Say Allah is the creator of everything. Remember, khaliq from khalq, to create according to a specific design. So it entails knowledge, entails a will to create something in this way and not any other way, and the power to do so. He's the creator of every single thing, and he is the one. There is no other deity, there is no other God that deserves worship. Al-Qahhar, the one who dominates all others, those absolutely supreme. So they can't oppose him. The gods can't. Their false gods can't oppose him because they're not real. They can't do anything. They can't veto a decision he's made. They can't alter anything he's decided. He's the one supreme, lone, perfect God, and they're just false notions and ideas that people have been worshipping. So it's really eloquent, these verses, and really clear that belief in one God is the sound belief. And this is what is logically necessitated. And you can have people that turn away from it. You can have people that ignore it. You can have people that make up, random ideas, or we only exist because of, a long sequence of random events, if this didn't happen, then the solar system wouldn't exist. If Saturn and Jupiter weren't there pulling all the asteroids and away, stopping them from impacting with Earth, that happened and that was just by chance, and this happened, this was just by chance, and we just happened to be in the Goldilocks zone, not too close to the sun, not too far. And this just happened, and then God knows lightning hit some primordial, goo, and the first single cell amoeba, which is about as complicated as New York City in its inner workings, that just appeared. Come on, what is the soundest, most logical, and let's just face it, what is the most realistic answer? There's a being who's perfect. Yes, we don't know everything about him, and he's going to be beyond our understanding. He's so far advanced. People don't have a problem, saying this about aliens, but they have a problem saying this about God. And he's just far beyond. We're not even talking about technology, just perfection of existence. He's a perfect being, and he created everything. Right? There's a design. There's a designer. He has the power, the knowledge, the ability, the will. He made it. Right? So, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has facilitated for us today. So let's stop here, and we'll continue from this point, inshaAllah ta'ala. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.